So colleagues, friends, students, everyone. Actually, I feel overwhelmed. I don't take compliments very well. Actually, I feel يا ريت بتنشق الأرض تبلعني, but there's nothing I can do about that. Let me begin by actually thanking my colleague and boss, مع إنه بشوفه a friend much more than a boss, Dr. Ramzi Sabra. The reason why I asked Dr. Sabra actually to come and open the session is not because of his academic appointment or as Associate Dean for Undergraduate Medical Education. The reason why I asked Dr. Sabra goes back to an incident that happened in 2007 when I was sitting at the International College one late afternoon wondering what is it that I really want to do, to stay or to leave, and my heart was somewhere else, was not purely in simple teaching. I wanted to do something in medicine. And all of a sudden, I got a call from Dr. Sabra. قال لي, hey, Thalia, are you interested in teaching ethics at AUB? Of course, I said yes. I submitted my resignation, met Dr. Sabra, whom I have to say has always humbled me. He put up with me a lot, لأنه أنا مشاغبة actually, and I come up with crazy ideas sometimes. And he's been a supporter, a colleague, and a friend ever since. So Ramzi, thank you very much, really. Again, colleagues, students, friends, and family, I thank you for honoring and for your honoring and humbling presence today. شفتوا قد إيه thank yous ما بحبون. Presence today amidst times marked by uncertainties, to say the least. Special appreciation goes to the Ministry of Health, the International Association of Bioethics, and the Comité Consultatif National Libanais d'Éthique for supporting this event. Thank you again to my colleagues, Dr. Ramzi Sabra, Firas Abyad, Arthur Kaplan, Barty Dravitsky, Ghassan Abu Sitta, and to my student, colleague, and I proudly say mentee, Bashar Hassan. Thank you to the AUB Press in general, Yasmin Hajjar in particular, and Marie-Claire Leader in particular also for making this day possible, and of course, my very dear colleagues, the core of the growing SHBP family, Diana Miati and Tala Khansa. Thank you very much. Special gratitudes, actually, goes to my mom and dad, okay, to whom I owe everything in life, to my very dear sisters, Mimosa and Wadad, who happen to be here, to Dr. Waddah Nasser, my professor and mentor, and last but not least, to Tante Mona Saba Rahal. I don't know if she's here. She was supposed to come. Tante Mona Saba Rahal is mom's best friend, whom I always called the Simone Beauvoir of our times. Providence had it that Mama, who taught me by words and example the importance of virtues and integrity, and to whom this book is dedicated, is joining us from another world today, a much better one. To Mama, the light of my being, who raised me on virtues, morals, and courage, I'm sorry. Thank you for being who you are and for making me what I am. For raising me to believe that the virtues of old times can still thrive amidst modern day chaos. It is customary in book launching events to have the author read a few passages from the book, but I will not do that. Instead, I want to share a short narrative of personal trajectory at AUB, which in many ways led to this book. To many, AUB is a university from which they receive their degrees. To others, the place where they work. To me, it is a very different story. AUB is a place I joined when I was 17 years of age. I got my bachelor's in sociology, worked as an administrative assistant at the PSPA department, while fulfilling the prerequisites for a master's in philosophy. I then became a student assistant at the philosophy department, a graduate assistant, then a research assistant. AUB is the place where I learned to do research, write papers, and later articles and books. In Nicely Hall, I took almost all my courses. And West Hall was the drama club, the Red Cross, Reading for the Blind, to mention but a few. The moving finger writes, and having written moves on, says Al-Khayyam. AUB is the place where I shifted from pre-med to philosophy through a twist of fate. عليك, Dr. Nasser. One late morning in front of Nicely 212, when I was passing by with my cell biology book and overheard a philosophy class discussing Hegel. Eventually, I ended up doing 2 PhDs in bioethics, and thus united both disciplines, medicine and philosophy. AUB is the place where I fell in love for the first time, where I worked for the first time, and where I found myself for the first time. As I walk amidst its old picturesque buildings, I find myself smiling without knowing it, at times with joy, at others with melancholy. I smile mostly at the fact that perhaps I'm one of the few people who can hold the sand hourglass and turn it upside down at leisure, albeit figuratively, simply via a stroll on a campus that has marked history and was marked by history. AUB is a trip down memory lane. The earliest memory is that of my mother holding my hand when I was a child as we were pacing on AUB campus, somewhere between Marquand House and the mesmerizing sea. I still recall what she said to me that day. This is the university I dream you will graduate from, or from which you will graduate. She then showed me where she planted the jasmine tree near the bench in front of Jeffett Library. And ever since, that area became my favorite spot. Years passed by, and Mama knew about my plans of becoming a physician. And she used to take her silly teenager to the AUB MC coffee shop from time to time. Every time I go there, it's a trip again down memory lane. The trees can share stories from my life, so can the rocks between the sea and Marquand House, the green oval, the observatory where I launched a philosophy newsletter, the green bench between Nicely and West Hall where 2 juvenile adults dared to engrave their names, to mention but a few. The sick lemons recall when my advisor likened me to them, to the fury of my fiancé. The cafeteria when I used to have lunch every Wednesday during my first semester at AUB, as we had an afternoon statistic course with Dr. Maha Itani. Thank you for being here. My birthday surprise while a master's student in room 300 of the philosophy department, as one of the professors jokingly noted that I just turned 18. Perhaps because AUB has the power to make you feel you are always 18. AUB to me is a world encapsulating a big part of my existence. It is not just my alma mater, it is part of me. On campus, particularly the upper campus, I can anytime encounter the young Thalia, known for her avid love for books, spending a lot of her time at Jeffett Library with a fortunate access to the stacks. Being part of a family life at the Department of Philosophy with the morning coffee, manouches, and the laughter of Ilyas. I see imageries from the past mingled with the present. I come across some of my professors who played a role in making me what I am now. Some still teach, others retired, and to all I will be forever thankful. Special gratitude goes to my professor, advisor, mentor, colleague, and friend, Dr. Waddah Nasser. Sorry, Dr. Nasser, but I still can't call you on a first-name basis. مش هتظبط معي. Who supported me and again put up with me all through my years as student and then faculty. A role model who teaches by example. Thank you, Dr. Nabil Dajjani in absentia, my advisor and professor when an SBS major, and who made me once stay up all night preparing for my first oral presentation. I still recall it was on Tahir bin Jalloun. Because one sentence he said when I went to register for his course, I only accept excellent students. It is that first experience which led me to being able to make this address today. Thank you, Dr. Munir Bashur, my professor of education, whose fun and inspiring courses made me consider a teaching career. And here, allow me to recall an anecdote. My mom happened to know Dr. Bashur, and when she knew I was taking a course with him, she told me, Lama, when you finish and you get your final grade, go and say hello from me. So that's what I did. I went to his office. عم يضحك دكتور بشور. I went to his office. قلت له دكتور بشور بتسلم عليك دلال حديدي. He said, Oof, تعرفيها لدلال؟ قلت له, yes, I'm her daughter. And his reply was, ليش تزوجت? I told him, what do you think? So to my professors, I thank you. والعين ما بتعلى عن الحاجة. This is just a small appreciation. Thank you to all who are here, to my colleagues at AUBMC, and of course to my family for making a difference, which made the SHBPP earn the accreditation Star of Excellence long time ago. Okay. But AUB is also the place where I learned that matters are not always as they seem. That behind smiles, there might be plots. Behind claims of integrity, there might be treachery and duplicity. And behind hostility, a feebleness of will. Most importantly, it is while at AUB that I came to appreciate that behind every shade, there is a story, a life sculpted by pain and joy, both indubitable equalizing factors among all human beings. I saw this amidst my colleagues, my students, my patients, and my personal life. While at AUB, I studied Plato's Republic and Machiavelli's The Prince, as we challenged Thrasymachus's claim that the end justifies the means, and felt vindicated when Socrates proved that it pays to be just. But it is also while at AUB that I learned that oftentimes might is right. I learned that nowadays, more than ever before, it is the Machiavellis who rise in a world ruled by power, greed, and love of money. That power, political and not, as well as its impact on the lives of others, can only be comprehended through what I call an ecology of corruption. But it is while at AUB that I learned what a precarious rising that is before the final and inevitable subjugation. While at AUB, I learned to fight for what is right and to have moral courage regardless of repercussions. I learned to deal with moral distress and face moral myopia with stoicism when needed. It is while at AUB that I learned that the virtuous person can be virtuous, cannot be virtuous in part, and does what is right even when no one is looking, and that the bad person can harm the good person only if the latter lets him. While at AUB, I learned that there is no greater treasure than honesty and transparency, that trust is earned rather than acquired, and paradoxically also witnessed otherwise. While at AUB, I was nicknamed a steel magnolia, and while at AUB, I learned that nothing lasts forever except goodness of heart and deed. Perhaps that is why I teach my first clinical ethics session not in class, nor at the bedside, rather at the cemetery and by the tombside. What I'm trying to say today is that we are all, and to a great extent, the product of the choices we make in our lives, of the people whom we indirectly permit to impact our lives. Nothing happens ex nihilo, and we are all beings in time and beings in relation. And whether we are conscious of it or not, marked by the butterfly effect that molds our personal narratives. Towards a post-Flexnerian revolution, graduating the virtuous physician can be read at many levels. While it is addressed to physicians, it can also be read through different lenses. A virtuous person does the right thing even when no one is looking. In a world where the good perish and the evil flourish, I continue to be an incorrigible optimist and believe that it will eventually be otherwise. Oftentimes, my students inquire about the Reispise phenom inscription that I have below my email signature. It stands for Consider the End. I also carry the lesson on me every day through this ring, which reads, وَكَفَى بِالْمَوْتِ وَاعِظًا, inscribed on a replica of a sultan's ring. The ridiculously large turban is a burial shroud, a constant reminder of our evanescent nature. The sword is the pledge to fight for justice and what is right, be it by omission or commission. It is that consciousness of our ephemerality that teaches us how to touch immortality, and that is by leaving a good imprint, helping raise generations of virtuous people who will not only heal their patients, but also their homeland. Many of us continue to believe in what is right and in AUB, so that they may have life and have it more abundantly. Thank you.